understanding what you have read, not about what you read alone, but the ability to be able to assimilate and the ability to able to write in the context of what you were given. Now there are 9 steps in which you have to understand when answering comprehension passage. Comprehension is not about just reading and answering questions. There are things that you have to put into consideration when answering comprehension passage. The first one is that you have to read the passage first to understand the main idea. Most students make they are in a haste to jump into reading the question first without knowing the mind of the author, without knowing the context in which they had to answer the question. So when they just gamble and then start answering questions even without knowing the main idea, that is very wrong, and that can make a student not to be able to write effectively as it should. Now, the second, I said the first test for a recap is that you have to read your passage and understand the main idea. Then the second step is for you to read the questions, to read the question effectively without any distractions. Now, when you are reading the questions, there are 4 aspects in which comprehension passage is being set. The first questions based on fact and information. When you are talking about fact and information, the information is being supplied in the passage. The context in which the author is as written, it is there, and the question will be asked concerning that. That is the first aspect in answering comprehension passage, the questions. Then the second aspect is figures of speech. There will be a phrase or a clause that will be extracted from the passage, in which you have to read and understand the figure of speech to the to the sentences. Now, when you are answering these figures of speech, we know we have different kind of figure of speech. We have simile, we have metaphor, we have personification and the like. So you have to read along in the context for you to be able to answer that. Then the next one, when answering this question, is grammatical names and functions. Grammatical names and functions, we have phrases, we have clauses, we have sentences. Also, sentences, you have to know the type of sentences. Sometimes it might be phrase, sometimes it might be clause, and you know that phrase is a group of words without a finite verb. Clause is a group of words with finite verb, but that forms the part of a sentence. And you know what a sentence is. A sentence is a word that must have both subject and a verb. So it will give you have to be able to answer that. So then the last aspect in answering question is word substitution. Most students have this they have the ability to answer the word substitution, but they answer it in outside the context. When you are picking a word to substitute for the word substitution, what you have to do first is for you to your own idea that you have made, the word that you want to use to substitute that word, you have to go back to the passage, and then you have to insert that word, read it along with where the word is you want to substitute from. By that will help you to know the context. That will help you to also know you also know how to be able to use it, the tenses and the like. So that is the second step, answering the question. Now, going back to the third step, you have to identify the keywords. You read the passage before, then you read the question, then you go back to the passage again. Reading the second time will give you more broad information, and then because you have read the question earlier, you'll be able to understand where the answer is being located in the passage. What you are going to do is that you have to bring out the keywords. You can circle, you can use date, you can use action word to be able to understand where the answer is, so that you not pick irrelevant words. Now for the fourth step, you have to use word from the passage in your answer. Use the word from your passage in your answer. That means that you can have your own opinion, you can have your own idea, but when answering comprehension passage, you must write in the mind of the author. You have to write in the mind of the author. So when you are writing, you must make sure that what you are writing is not out of context of the passage given to you. Thank you. Welcome back. This is class on hair. From what we have learnt before, a little recap. I told you the 9 simple steps that you have to put into consideration when answering comprehension. The first step is you have to read the passage first to understand the main idea. You read the passage first to understand the main idea. Then the second step is to identify the important aspects in answering the question. You have to understand the important aspects in answering the question. Then for the top steps, I said you go back to the passage again, reading the second time with full knowledge of the main idea. Then you are already aware of the questions that you are answering. Then the third step is for you to identify the keywords in the question. You have to use you can use the name, you can use the date, you can use the verb, you can use the theme to be able to identify your answer in the passage. Then I said the fourth step, you have to use the word from the passage. That means you don't have to answer out of context. You have to write along the idea of the author, the idea in the passage. You don't have to gamble and bring irrelevant words. That is for the fourth step. Then for the fifth step, you have to write in a complete sentence. Most students make this mistake that they just gamble into answering questions without writing in a complete sentence. For example, question is being asked that, Kemi, why did Kemi pass why did Kemi pass his examination? You can't say due to hard work. You will say Kemi passed because she worked hard and prepared well. That is a complete sentence that will give us you'll be able to express yourself completely in a complete sentence. So you don't gabble, you don't write in phrase. You have to write in a complete sentence. That is the fifth step. Then for the sixth step, you have to, when an answer is being asked, for you to make reference, maybe a quote, you can paraphrase from the passage to support your answer. There are some questions that your opinion is being asked, that what the writer has written in the passage, but indirectly you have to figure it out, and then you can use a sentence in the passage to be able to strengthen and support your answer. That is for the sixth step. Then for the seventh step, you have to avoid copying the entire sentence. It is called mindless lifting in English language, when you just pick everything, you just write all the paragraphs down. By that, you will not be able to, you will just write. There's no how you want to write directly from the passage, that you will not write irrelevant words. So you have to avoid mindless lifting from the passage. You have to read, assimilate, digest, understand the question before answering the question. Then for the seventh step, you have to avoid I said for the eighth step rather, check that your answer matches the question. Most students are they are in a rush. When they are done, they don't want to go back to check what they have written. They will just submit, and then by that there are little things that you have to do. You have to cross your T's and dot your I's. Everything that you have written, you can just look for a time for you, maybe the little time that you have to be able to go across everything that you have written, and by that it will give you time to be able, that will lead us to the last step, which is step 9, checking your spelling, check your punctuations, ensure that you have answered every part, answered every question. That will help you, to be able to get a good grade in your examination. You know, examinations is not something that you can just gamble into. It's every mark is matters, every mark matters. So when you are writing, please write diligently, be smart enough when you are writing, be intelligent, and also be calm. Avoid every distractions that can make what you that can distort your writing, that can make your writing not to be adequate, not to be effective as you are expected.
Thank you. Welcome back to the edition of English Language on Class on Hair. That was a beautiful presentation by Mrs. ASAFA. A recap and a brief summary. A summary to what all the items she had listed in our edition of reading comprehension class just a few minutes ago. You would observe that some of the items she mentioned are very important when it comes to passing examination in final year. As an examiner or as examiners, we understand that students, are more often oblivious of some of these facts or some of these items that they need to know. In summary, what the class actually covered is that you need to understand the passage before you start attempting questions. By understanding the passage, you need to first of all read the question, read the passage, understand it, then answer the question. The next thing I want to itemize and I want to strengthen in our discussion is this: before you answer a question, you have to understand the question itself, because sometimes questions may not look exactly like the answer you have in mind in the passage. So you have to understand the passage question and go back to the passage to do what we call tracing of the question, of the answer to match with the question. And there was an area or an aspect where she mentioned that students are expected to, the aspect where we want you to find words or phrases to replace another word or word that are used in the passage. One thing is important there. You observe she mentioned context there. Context and content are very important, very serious thing in language studies. And let me simply explain that a word can be used to function in 3 or 4 perspectives, 4 areas. You have to be very sure of what it is actually used to mean the past before you can say that this is exactly what it is. It should be used to replace it. And a good example is this: if you say a good number of students attended classes, and you say a good number of students attended the classes, underline the word good there, and we say the boy is a good boy. The boy is a good boy. He is a good boy. Good in both senses are not same. Good in the first sense means number. Good in the second sense means well-behaved. So you have to understand that, okay, how exactly is this word used before you can say this is the exact word that goes for it. And if you are short of words, or if you lack words to replace what you are expected to do, you have the permission, the license to use a phrase to rephrase that. And the area of grammatical names and functioning, I think we'll find the time in one of our sections to explain some of these phrases, clauses, and all of them. How do we identify a noun phrase? How do we identify a negative phrase, clauses, sentences, and some other things like that? In some examination, especially NECO examinations, it's not common in WAEC examination. You would see that they will ask a question, they will ask you to provide an answer. You provide an answer, they ask you to bring a proof from the passage to support the answer you have provided. That is what she read, that where you are expected to make quotations, find the quotations and provide them. And in the last aspect, lastly, while she was reading out the items or the outlines to answering comprehension passage, she did mention something that I want to strengthen to. And what's that? It is the area of taking instruction before you start answering questions. I have always warned students one thing: if you want to pass examination, especially the area of writing, honors, or let me say, the intention of examiner when it comes to summary and comprehension is to test the two aspect of the basic language skills. In English language and in language studies, we have four basic languages: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So what we want to test here is reading and writing. How much do you understand what you have read, and how better can you present them when it comes to writing? So if you don't pass instruction, you may not be able to pass what you want to what you know, that's what you are expected. Right? That's why more often some will say, I attempted the questions, I did excellently well, but the result will come otherwise. It's simply an interpretation to the fact that you did not read instruction and you did not understand the instruction. Take a look at how your examiner wants you to answer the question. And lastly, no one has ever written, I used to say that no one has ever written at a go and have an excellent grading. It's not possible. Even professors, even scholars of English language, they will have to read to make corrections. That's why if you're answering your questions, you have to take your time and not waste time, so that by the time you have to review your answers, you will have to go back to the answers, then review them, make corrections where necessary, and move to other aspect of your examination.
Now, the aspect we are going to now is question and answers, and from here I have a short passage that I'm going to read for our listeners at home. And then if you also have your own questions that you want us to shed more light on, please you can also call in. I want to read this short passage now, and then the line will be open for you to be able to call in, and then you can answer the questions or give us your questions so that I'll be able to shed more light on it. I have said the passage goes thus. Kemi was an SS3 student in Ibadan. Kemi was an SS3 student in Ibadan. She wanted to excel in her examination. So she created a reading timetable. Every day after school, she read for 2 hours and consulted her teachers when she had difficulties. During the examination, Kemi felt confident because she was well prepared. She obtained excellent grades and made her parents and teachers proud. During her examinations, Kemi felt confident because she was well prepared. She obtained excellent grade and made her parents and teachers proud. Now I have question here, and I'm going to open the call to be. You can call in, and then I asked my question, and if you want to ask any question, you can do that also. Thank you. You can call 070 47 00 4969. Now, one of the questions that I want to ask about the passage that I read earlier is that what strategy did Kemi use to prepare for her examination? What strategy did Kemi use to prepare for her examination? I said whenever you want to answer questions, you answer in a complete sentence. Don't answer in phrases. What strategy did Kemi use to prepare for her examinations? I want to hear the name first. The name of the name first. You have to answer with the name. Kemi prepared for her examination by creating reading timetable and reading for 2 hours every day after school. You can see that is a very complete sentence. It is not a phrase, and it brings about the mind, the totality of the mindset of the author. You understand? Hello. Hello, good
Hello, good
morning.
morning.
Hello, good
Hello, good
morning.
morning.
What's your name?
Good
Where are you
morning,
calling
ma.
from?
Good
My name
morning.
is Daniel. I'm calling from Moluo.
Thank you, Daniel, for calling us this morning. Please go on. We are all here with you. Daniel, do you have a question for us this morning?
Sir?
Do you have a question for us this morning?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, or you want to answer the question that was asked during the passage reading?
I want to answer comprehension passage, sir.
Did you listen to the passage when it was read?
Yes, sir.
Please ask it question.
Okay, I said, what strategy did Kemi use to prepare for our examination?
Did you hear the question?
Yes, sir.
Please answer it.
The strategy that Kenny used to prepare for our examination was by creating a timetable
Yes.
for 2 hours reading and consult teacher when there is any difficulty.
Yes, you are right.
Thank you, boy. Thank you for calling. Please, thank you. I appreciate you. You have that correct. One observation I want to make in that regard is that you would see that when my colleague mentioned or read the question, what began the question was the mentioning of the noun or the person involved in the passage, Kemi. And when you answer your question in comprehension passage, you are expected, and it is expected of you. I should stress that you should mention the name involved, not use a pronoun instead. When a pronoun is used in answering the question, asking the question, you use a pronoun to answer it. Some students, where Kemi was mentioned, they will replace it with she, and that will not go. You have your mark deducted. And there's what we call sequence of tenses too. And the tenses that was used in the question was in past form. Your answer must also be in past form. So who's that caller? David, or what's his name? Daniel, thank you for using for taking to that expectation. I'm giving you a flowers this morning. Thank you. Another caller? Do you have another caller? Yes. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back. The phone the line you can call to is 07047003969, 07047003969, and 07047002969, 07047002969. Yeah.
Yes, and to the second question, it goes thus: why was Kemi confident during the examination? Why was Kemi confident during the examination? I have told you before that you don't start your question in a phrase. You have to you have to answer your question in a complete sentence. Now, why was Kemi confident during the examination? According to the passage, Kemi was confident during the examination because she was well prepared through consistent reading and seeking help from the teachers. That is the answer. She was confident. Kemi was confident during the examination because she was well prepared through consistent reading and seeking help from teachers. I want you to apply this also to your daily life, especially your academics, that you have to be consistent. You have to have your own timetable to read every day. You have to read every day. Read what you have learnt in class, and also you can also read ahead. And then we are not an island of knowledge. Everybody does not know everything. You can go to approach your teachers to be able to help you in any difficulties you are. That is what Kemi did, and that helps her to excel in our examination. So the last question is that what lesson can students learn from Kemi's experience? What lesson can students learn from Kemi's experience? Students can learn from Kemi's experience, or let me say experience from that, because she has a consistent she's consistent. She has a good timetable. She planned are reading, and then she's hard work. Do you understand? So what we can learn as a student is for you to be consistency and hard work. They are essential for your success in examination. You have to be consistent and you have to be hard work also. So in summary of everything that we have learned today, you have to read the main idea. You have to read the main idea. Then you have to pick keywords from the question. You have to pick the essential words from the question. Then you answer in a complete sentence with evidence. You have to answer in a complete sentence with evidence, and then check your work before submission. You have to check everything that you have written. Check the question, then you check your words before you submit your question paper. That will really help you to able to correct what is needed for you to correct.
Thank you for having us on here this morning. That is, we are almost ending the program this morning, and thank you for listening. Very much thanks to Daniel from Olu for answering our question this morning. That was a wonderful performance. We love you. I appreciate all our listeners and the caller. And in the class this morning, we've been able to itemize some of the steps that are needed to pass examination, especially on the aspect of reading comprehension. My colleague has mentioned some of the outlines that students need to know when it comes to that. And thank you for listening to us. Thank you all our listeners. Thank you our teachers. Thank you our parents for giving our children, our students at home, the time, the privilege to listen to this station. On Monday, every 11 o'clock on Monday, shall be coming online for aspect of English language. And come next week, myself and my colleague will be here to discuss and give you guidelines that are needed, and that will help you to have a masterful attendance of question in summary writing. Tomorrow, God's willing, our colleagues will be here at the same time. That was biology, mathematics. So please keep listening to Oxygen FM. Thank you for having us. Do have a great day ahead of you.
My name is BUKOLA ASAFA. Have a lovely day.
Can you handle this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it up, 'cause it's